I now call the open council meeting of Monday, February 22nd, 2021 to order and request that everyone turn their cell phones off for the duration of the meeting. I'll ask the acting clerk to take a council roll call and request all members respond verbally at this time and when voting on any matters this evening. I'll also ask that when members aren't speaking, they turn their microphones off so we don't experience any feedback. I'd like to call for declarations of pecuniary interest and the...
Want to do the roll call?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Councillor Bush?
Present.
Councillor Carlucci?
Present.
Councillor Martin McKinnon?
Present.
Councillor Shane McKinnon?
Present.
Councillor McKay?
Present.
Councillor Price?
Present.
And Mayor Wilson?
Present. I would like to call for declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act with respect to the agenda for this meeting. Councillor McKay?
Yes, I'd like to recuse myself on item 13B, business relationship.
Okay, thank you. No one else? I'd like to call for declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for meetings at which a member was not in attendance and which had not previously been declared. Okay. I'd like to begin by acknowledging with respect that we are in Treaty 3 territory and that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis people. We have one delegation this evening, and I invite Mr. Potter of Treasury Metals to address Council. Mr. Potter, welcome.
Good evening. Lots of friendly faces. Thank you for having us this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to give an update on the Goliath Gold Complex, the Goliath Gold Project, Goldlum Project, and Miller Project. Done a lot of work over the number of years, and we wanted to have the opportunity to provide a brief update on the project, while also providing an opportunity for Council to ask any questions of Treasury Metals Management and our new Chief Executive Officer, Jeremy Wyatt. We have a short presentation. I'll defer to the chamber leads if you'd like me to share my screen and go ahead. A brief introduction to Jeremy and the rest of the management team, and then from there, the preliminary economic assessment and an update on the project. Just wanted to confirm everyone can see our screen.
Yeah,
Yes.
Good from here.
Okay, perfect. So like I said, thank you for having us this evening. As I said, brief introduction to the team and management, but then a look at the project itself. So at this point, I will turn it over to Jeremy Wyatt to introduce the project and give an update.
Sorry, excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
On my computer remotely, I can't see presentation. I don't know if others remotely can see it or not, or whether it's just me.
How's everyone else? Can you see it? Other councillors?
Okay, well, I've got the presentation up on a separate thing, so I'll use that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address the council this evening. My name's Jeremy Wyatt. I've recently joined Treasury Metals the last 2.5 months. I have been fortunate to have the opportunity to work in Northern Ontario before. From 2002 to 2008, I was responsible for building the Victor Diamond Mine in the James Bay Lowlands. And then more recently, 2017, 18, and a bit of 19, I was involved in the Rainy River project out of Fort Frances. So have had the opportunity to work in the area, have really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, to date, my only exposure to Dryden has been flying through on the way to Fort Frances, but I really do look forward to the opportunity as the pandemic subsides and we're able to get together to meet everyone in person. The other new member of our team, Mackenzie Dennis, who joined probably a month before I did. She's been on the project for about 3 years and recently left the engineering company to join us. And then I think you all know Mark and Mac, who've been on the project for close to 10 years each, have a lot of experience and have spent a lot of time building the relationships, which we definitely hope to continue with as we move forward. I'd like to hand over to Mark and the team now to take us through the latest information from the preliminary economic assessment that was released about 10 days ago. Thank you very much, Mark. Over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeremy, and thanks to everyone for taking a bit of time. We'll keep it fairly brief, but really, in essence, what we wanted to do is it's been a while since we've been in front of the council and given an update, and we've done a lot of work, and there's been a few fairly, call it, significant changes, some less so, but we did pick up the Goldland project, and we put a new resource on Miller and brought those together under the banner of a single preliminary economic assessment. So we've released the general results of that, and we're right now putting together the report. So in the next 2 weeks, we should have a fairly lengthy report that outlays the entire project, but just wanted to let everyone know as much as we could in advance of that coming out and just get an update on where we are. So in terms of what we're calling now the Goliath Gold Complex, it does include the Goliath mine and project as we've known it in the past. It adds to that Goldland, which is an open pit, and then we put a maiden resource, a brand new resource on Miller. So that's the first time anyone's seen kind of gold results or any sort of mining plan around that as well. And then the three of those all being processed at the Goliath site. And what we've been saying to the market and investor-wise is that it's now a significant regional player with critical mass. And by critical mass, we mean that it has enough gold resources and is de-risked far enough that we really see this as going into production now. As probably most can attest, Goliath has been around, and as Jeremy said, we've been working on it, Mac and I, for almost 10 years. We believe in it. It's a great project. That being said, on an investor basis, it was really hard to get across the line just due to the fact that it didn't have quite enough gold to really make it interesting to a broad range of people. It needed a very specific investor or someone that wanted to build it. So we think that with the three projects together, there's a lot more of a critical mass such that it is going to help to get that built. So we are leveraging the environmental approval at Goliath. We do have the federal EA completed as of 2019. So we're really trying to stay within those bounds, and we've done so far, but making sure that we're leveraging that going forward and not having to redo any of that work. Obviously, city of Dryden and towns to Lookout, there's a massive workforce, I think, that's either in town or wanting to remigrate back. Certainly, after instances like when we release a study like that, we do see quite an influx of resumes coming in and people wanting to move back from anywhere from less so out west these days, but Rainy River or Red Lake, wanting to come live in Dryden. So we're keeping it going with that in mind and hopefully repatriating a lot of those people. World-class infrastructure, as we all know, a lot of it's centered around Goliath. We do have roads, power line, CP rail, and obviously towns around. And then what it does do as well, it gives us extensive prospective strike length in that we've gone from 10 kilometers at Goliath to now 65 kilometers worth of potential to find additional gold or an additional resource within that. And of those 65, 62 kilometers are basically unexplored. So there's been a lot of work at Goliath, a lot of work at Goldland, and then some at Miller, but there's a lot of opportunity to go forward and build on top of those gold resources. And then I will mention as well, construction plan, we do have a lot of work ongoing with permitting. Mackenzie's on the line, but we're trying to keep it brief, so we won't get into too much of the plan. But we're looking at Q4 of 2023 as potential construction start. So we've got a lot of work to do on provincial side now. In terms of the economic highlights from the PEA, what we have done, some may notice that it's basically, or it's not basically the same, but a lot of the numbers are fairly similar to what we've had in the past. So 328 million net present value, a 30.2% IRR, internal rate of return, at a $1,600 US gold price. So that's a little bit of a discount to what it is currently on the market, but on a long term, on a 3-year average basis, that's probably about what the industry is using. And so from the previous studies we've had at Goliath, we've taken a lot more of a conservative look. So knowing that we do have that critical mass, what we're aiming for, as you can see down in just request control, but total life of mine recovered gold ounces is 1.1 million ounces over 10 years, basically. So what we're really looking for is 100,000 ounces over a 10-year period, which we have done now. It's a touch under that for 9 years, but we wanted to make that critical mass and make it something that someone's ready to invest in, and that's one of the milestones that we have hit, and it's a big one for for a mid-tier or some other mining company. But taking that, we've put a lot more conservatism into the resources that we're looking at mining, such that we're very confident going forward that it's less arm waving ounces and more something that someone like Jeremy is confident to come in and start building, start planning construction for. It's obviously a technically simple project. Not much has changed in the way of Goliath. It's always been fairly stock standard. It's we're not reinventing the wheel on anything that we're doing, and we're continuing on with that process. In total, it's a 13-year mine life with an average of 102,000 ounces from the first 9 years. It just drops off a touch on the 10th year, so we don't have 100,000 over 10, but we're very close. So any little growth, and we should be able to get there. And then if we look at the leverage to the gold price, so $726 million worth of net present value at basically what would be a spot price. So it certainly is, in the current market, looking like a fairly attractive project, and we're getting a lot of interest going forward. If we take a look real briefly at the preliminary site plan of the Goliath Gold Project, if you've seen any of the documentation in the past, I think you'd be hard pressed to point out the differences. Everything looks very similar. We've kept it within a very tight footprint as much as possible. The waste rock storage facility, very similar. The open pit, nearly identical. And we've moved the plant around just really for earthworks, for civil construction, putting it on the best footing possible. But, we're talking about a move of approximately 100 meters from what we've seen previously. The biggest difference that you may notice is in the tailings storage facility. So we are obviously processing now the Goliath rock, but the Gold Lund and the Miller rock as well. So we've increased the total tonnage going through the processing plant over the life of mine. And so we've extended the tailings facility out to the east. You can see this line down the middle is an initial, but that's approximately where we had it previously. And we're extending it out to the east. We have chosen to go outwards instead of upwards, which I think is fairly significant. In terms of upwards, I know there's a lot of concern in communities in our past consultation and engagement in terms of tailings failures and that kind of thing. But instead of adding risk to the total height, we've opted to go outwards. So there is a greater footprint, but there is a reason behind that. And part of the mitigations that we've had in the environmental assessment is putting a liner across that whole facility. So we are maintaining that. Next slide, Mac. And again, in terms of refinements to the study area, you can see the green line is a highlight of what we've proposed in the past and what was in the environmental assessment. The yellow line is the new area that we proposed. So it's almost identical, aside from a small portion of the eastern facility. If we're looking at Goldland, the Goldland deposit, it's about 25 kilometers to the northeast of Goliath, along the Highway 72 towards Sioux Lookout. It is very close, you can see, to Highway 72 itself. Very similar open pit. It's about 130 meters deep. Call it, a kilometer to a kilometer and a half in length. And then we've got a couple other smaller pits that really we're trying to connect as well in terms of the drilling. So it's an open pit. We do have waste rock storage facility, and then we'd be loading out and moving via truck on Highway 72. Should note as well, in terms of acid drainage or acid rock drainage, everything we've seen, or sorry, rather 97% of what we've seen at Goldland so far is indicating that it is not acid drainage. So in terms of closure and maintaining water quality, it's certainly a large benefit in that sense. Miller deposit, again, is a further 10 kilometers to the northeast towards Sioux Lookout. Again, very close to Highway 72 that you can see. And you'll see that there's a pretty small open pit. There's only about, it's 1.3 million tons. So, it's about 10% of what we may be mining from Goldland. It's very early stages in terms of resource work. The previous owner, First Mining, had done about 7,500 meters worth of drilling. It took them about a year and a half to do that. And we've got a 50,000 ounce open pit. So it really is kind of the start of what we could see as a satellite pit in terms of growth and potentially adding additional longer term resources along that strike length. So that's a really good example of blue sky that we'd be looking at for the future. And finally, just to touch on, some of the economic local regional benefits that we see. As I mentioned, 13 years worth of mine life, and we see approximately $209 million worth of basically salaries across the mine life between mill facilities, the mining at the 3 sites and onwards. We do see construction employment worth of 2 years basically for construction employment, and there's an additional 80 million worth of salaries included in that time period. So definitely not insignificant in terms of the local effects. 10 years worth of materials supply for 110 million, and then obviously earthworks within the different phases of both construction on the plant and facility, and also the tailings facility as we continue to grow it. So that's a bit more of a longer term item that we grow in year, call it year after year, basically. We do also have freight contracts. We've got $72 million worth of freight. The one difference from what we've had previously in Goliath is that we are looking at transporting ore material or gold-bearing material from Goldland and Miller to the Goliath site to process. And so we've assumed for this study level that it would be by truck, by a typical dump truck, using the highway and a mix of the highway and existing roads that are there. And we're looking to get into further study whether or not there's a better way we can do that going forward. So diamond drilling, assay laboratories, and then obviously kind of external purchasing explosives that'll be coming not necessarily from Dryden, but within the region. We feel that should be another 225 million basically over the life of the mine. So it's a very quick snapshot, but hopefully that kind of gives an idea of what the addition of Goldland and Miller have done and some of what we're working with on the Goliath property, Goliath property going forward. So I'm not sure if there's any questions on the presentation.
Councillors, questions? Councillor Bush?
Yes, thank you through the chair. Firstly, Jeremy and Mackenzie, welcome to Dryden. Nice to see you folks here, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of you in the future. A couple of questions, and first of all, just curious what exchange rate you might have used in the presentation. or in your PEA?
It's 75 cents.
75 cents?
Yeah.
Okay. And you talked about some of the work that you're doing, Mark, going forward, and some of what your key areas are. In terms of one or two key challenges, what would you say those might be going forward?
Well, I think a number of different things. I think there's a lot of things that need to line up, certainly, and Jeremy's done a really good job, you know, his first 2 months, and you may have noticed we've just done another financing. So we certainly, for the next year, have a bit of runway in terms of getting a lot of that done. So that is, I don't want to say off the table, but certainly there's a little bit of relief going forward so we can line some of those programs up. I think there's a lot of, you know, a lot of work that needs to go into permitting, obviously. I think there's, you know, we've just started on Gold Lund this year, so we do have a full year's worth of baseline data at Gold Lund, and starting to put those into the timetable to get them moving. I think there's caught a lot of cogs that need to hit in terms of, you know, the different agencies, whether it's MOE or MNR, M&DM, as we go forward. So certainly that is one of the, you know, the longer lead time items. So there's a lot of work to go into that, and obviously maintaining contact and engagement and consultation with each one of the First Nations groups. But I think, you know, Mac and the team have gone a long ways, and, you know, we've got MOUs with a number of them, and setting up an environmental management committee. Right now we're kind of in the final, I don't want to say negotiation, but final, you know, terms of reference basically as to how that's going to go. And so having Eagle Lake First Nation involved such that, you know, they're seeing all the documentation basically in real time, and there's a better way that we can facilitate, for lack of a better word, I think, you know, facilitate that engagement process.
Great, thank you. My last question through the chair is, you know, people change, governments change over time, et cetera. And I know probably about 5 or 6 years ago, the community of Dryden had written a letter of support for the project. And I'm wondering what council can do and what Dryden can do to help continue to support the project going forward.
I think, you know, if I can just speak from some of the other projects I've been involved in, it's always really beneficial for the company to have that support. We had that from places like Timmins previously. And I think the important thing for us is to keep this dialogue open so that people are aware of everything that's going on. And there are going to be times when, I know at Timmins, we even had setups where there would be meetings where ministers were coming in and they'd phone us, the community would phone us, the town, the city would phone us and ask if there were any issues we wanted raised. And it's really a partnership. It's how we can work with you so that we see the benefits come to the region. So I think just keeping this dialogue open, and I really hope that we can do this face to face soon, because I'm really getting tired of Zoom prison. But it would be so good to get up and meet people, because there's a lot of opportunities here, and I've seen now with 2 other mines built where the region really can benefit. It's just a matter of, and the nice thing for us, I think, is that we actually have, you know, we've got another 2.5 years before we take a construction decision, which means we can actually start planning, because often we don't get the training and the right stuff done before construction and then operations. And right now we're talking about 2 years of construction, 10 years of operations, or 13 years. I think it's going to grow a lot more than that. And if we really get going early and get the right people trained up and ready for it, it's a great opportunity that we just mustn't miss out on. So, you know, just this open dialogue to me is so valuable.
Great, well, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shane McKinnon.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your presentation, folks. The environmental assessment, what is the status of that for these 3 areas or the corridor itself?
So the status of what we've got at Goliath itself is the environmental assessment has been completed on a federal basis. So as we go forward, any of the changes that were made, such as like the footprint of the tailings, that kind of thing, we'll be doing we're waiting for a little bit of guidance from the federal side, but we'll be doing a reassessment or an addendum to what we submitted previously on the new effects of what we've proposed. And then we're looking at a number of different smaller assessments on the provincial side. So, there's a few different, class EAs that we need to do. The most important of which will be the closure plan. Isn't necessarily an EA, but that's really one of the most important that we have on the provincial side in terms of really getting the mine started. And that's where you lay out what it will take to close in the end, and in terms of cost to do that, such that we can give a bond to the provincial government and not leave it such that it can be closed even if we can't, if we go bankrupt or something of the sort. So that's the most critical one on the provincial side, and we're working on that right now with the newest up-to-date site layout and actual mine plan that we've come up with in the PEA. In terms of the other two projects, we have started a full environmental baseline, so we've got about a year worth of work done on Gold Lund. Probably need at least another year worth of a number of different programs going forward, such that we can start to prepare those documents as well. We kind of think it'll be approximately 1 year delayed on what we can do for getting Goliath complete and ready for construction. And then Miller, we're really looking into this year, basically getting something started up there. So we don't have anything in terms of baseline. We've got a basic mine plan around it, but we've got to go look at now that we have something, starting to count the moose and the fish and the groundwater conditions, basically.
Thank you.
Right, anyone else? I have a question for any of you. I'm just trying to figure out the timeline again, where you're at. So did I hear right that Q4 2023 would be a possible production start date? Was that what I heard?
No, a construction decision. So we should have permits for Goliath in Q4 2023, and then we can take a construction decision, and then it's 18 months to 2 years to build it. So around about Q4 2025, we should see first production. And having built 2 mines in Northern Ontario already, we are already looking at ways to shorten that construction period, because I really don't want to be starting a mine up close to winter. So we're already looking at how we can shorten that slightly, but that's the sort of time frame. Q4 2023, round about Q4 2025 for production.
Okay, thank you. So no further questions. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to 2025 coming sooner than later.
Thank you very much, and thank you for giving us the time, and we look forward to doing it in person as soon as possible. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye,
folks.
Bye.
We have no presentations this evening. We have one public notice, which I'll ask the acting clerk to review.
Okay, the Dryden Area Joint Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee is requesting citizen applications to the committee who may provide perspective and insight regarding the complex social issues impacting the policies, programs, services, and strategies in our community. Citizens interested in submitting applications must live in the city of Dryden and will be chosen in accordance with their knowledge and lived experience of well-being priorities. The selected individual will provide a vital community voice in supporting Dryden's strategic planning approaches with respect to the promotion and improvement of safety, inclusion, belonging, and well-being quality of life indicators for the residents of Dryden. Applications are being accepted until February 28th and can be made online by completing the application found when you type www.dryden.ca /CSWB application into a search engine, or by completing a paper application form available at the City of Dryden Administration Department and returning it to the address shown on the form.
Okay, we need a mover and a seconder.
Not for public
Not for
notice.
that. What was that? Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm ahead of myself.
You're ahead of
We're now
me.
at consent agenda, part 1, general, and I'd like to ask the acting clerk to conduct this section of the agenda.
Okay. As normal, I'll review the items under consent agenda part 1, and when I'm done, I'll ask if there are any of those items that members would like to speak to or sever for a separate vote. This evening, under adopt and receive minutes, we have minutes of the Board of Health for the Northwestern Health Unit meeting held November 20th, 2020, the minutes of the KDSB meeting held December 17th, 2020, and the minutes of the Special Board of Health for the Northwestern Health Unit meeting held December 18th, 2020 to be received. For minutes to be adopted, we have the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held January 11th and the Council meeting held January 25th, as well as the Council Policy and Bylaw Review Committee meeting held February 3rd and the Police Costing Committee meeting held February 8th. Are there any of those items that anyone would like to speak to or sever for a separate vote this evening?
Oh, Councillor Bush?
Yes, I don't need to have anything severed, but item G, Police Costing Committee meeting minutes. I just would ask and remind council members, for those of you who are not part of the costing committee, if you do have questions or issues that you would like to have raised as MNP, et cetera, are putting the work together and putting the summary together for us, please get those in as soon as possible, because we are moving along, and if questions come up too late in the process, they won't either be able to be answered or be effectively answered. So just ask if everybody could forward any questions they have this in a timely as manner as possible. Thank you.
Thanks for the reminder, Councillor Bush. Okay, now,
Now
go ahead, Alison.
I would look for someone to move and second the motion, please. Councillor Martin and Councillor Carlucci, thank you. Moved by Councillor Martin McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Carlucci. The council hereby consider the following items of consent agenda part 1, general, under date of February 22nd, 2021, as read and adopted. 7, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 8, A, B.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. We're now at consent agenda part 2, bylaws, and I'd like to ask the acting clerk to conduct this section of the agenda.
All right, again, I'll review the items under consent agenda part 2, bylaws, and when I'm done, I'll ask if there are any items that members would like to speak to or sever for a separate vote. We only have 2 bylaws in the consent agenda this evening. The first, bylaw 2021-17, is a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Transportation for the Province of Ontario and the Corporation of the City of Dryden for the provision of funding under the dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program, as presented at the Committee of the Whole meeting earlier in the month. And the second bylaw is number 2021-19, and it's a bylaw to authorize the appointment of myself as acting clerk for the City of Dryden from March 1st to December 31st, 2021. Does anybody want to speak to or support either of those?
Okay.
Okay, look for somebody to move and second the motion, please. Councillor Shane and Councillor McKay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Shane McKinnon, seconded by Councillor McKay. The council consider section 11 of the consent agenda part 2 bylaws under date of February 22nd, 2021, which includes the following bylaws as read a first, second, and third time. Bylaw 2021-17 and bylaw 2021-19.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We're now back to the regular agenda, which is out of consent. Each item on the regular agenda will be presented individually to council. I would like to call upon Ms. Garden to present her report.
Hi, is everybody able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm just here to review a new policy that is coming into play. It is a safety audit policy. So safety audits were being done by my role on an annual basis, but it was decided to put it into a policy just to ensure accuracy and consistency moving forward. It was also added in that department managers and supervisors will be conducting safety audits as well. There were 3 audit forms. One was mostly geared towards the indoor work environment, such as City Hall, where staff are working at desks. And then the other 2 are more geared towards departments such as Public Works, Recreation, those that work with equipment tools. The goal of the policy or the audits is to ensure that staff are trained, that they know what they're doing, they know what their policies are, they know how to use the equipment properly, and that they're using it in a correct fashion. So I did submit everything, so I will open the floor if there's any questions.
Councillors, any questions? Councillor Bush?
Your microphone is off, Councillor Bush.
Sorry. Somehow it just went on and off. Thank you.
No worries.
Yes, thank you for the reports this evening, and I have to say I'm very pleased to see these updated policy and the audits. And it's also great to see line management conducting audits as well with the employees. So good work there. I do have one question, I guess, as I went through it. And I did note that we have one item in there about workplace violence in audits. And the reason I note that, it's a little bit unusual to see that in kind of a traditional work environment, workplace violence in a safety audit. Could you talk a little bit about that and what precipitates that item in a safety audit?
Of course. Majority of our staff, in one way or another, they do deal with members of the public. And it's been noted recently or over time that there's been incidents where either there's an aggressive member of the public, especially last year with COVID, with a lot of the new COVID regulations that were coming in. We have young staff members that need to implement new rules in order to be compliant with COVID. So it's a way for us to make sure that staff are aware that that policy is there. It is something very important, and it is something that needs to be reviewed annually as well. So it's just a way to make sure that staff are not becoming complacent in the workplace, and that they're aware of what their rights are as a worker, and what they do need to report things that are kind of out of place. So it's not necessarily violence between coworkers, but it's just educating staff that they have a right, and they don't need to be in a violent workplace, and that they do need to report it, and just to make sure that we're aware of it, so that we can take the preventative measures to either prevent it or to step in and create other policies that are going to protect them.
Okay, thank you. Just a supplementary question, if I could, through the chair. You see that issue increasing over the last few years, the potential for violent interactions with some members of the public?
Last year was a lot of education with COVID. I'm hoping this year will be a little easier. I think hopefully by now members of the public are aware of COVID regulations, the reasons why we have rules in place. I think when the Dryden police have shown their increase in violent behavior within the community as well, that kind of coincides. There's an increase in drug use within the community, unfortunately. There's an increase with issues that are related to a lower socioeconomic reasonings. So I've only been in the position for 1 year, but last year there were a few incidents, just for an example, at the Skywalk that we're now addressing. We're looking into, we're empowering staff that they do not need to work in a workplace that's unsafe, and we're just making sure that everybody is aware. We haven't had any, they've only been near miss incidents. We haven't actually had any altercations. So far it's just been near misses. I hope it continues that way. I'm going to encourage staff to continue to report these as a near miss. I think they do need to be reviewed and focused on. So yeah, it's just something that we're going to have to continue to observe, or not observe, but observe to make sure it doesn't get any worse, hopefully.
Yes, I think it's great from an education perspective, and certainly encouraging people that they don't have to engage people who are like that is very important. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Great. Any other questions? Councillor Shane McKinnon.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. Godden, for your report, and it's very comprehensive. I'm looking at the second document in regards to audits, and I just wonder, because pardon my ignorance on this, but the frequency of audits, it indicates that supervisors are expected to perform a minimum of 2 monthly safety audits within their workplace or job site. Managers are expected to perform a minimum of 6 safety audits annually, it looks like. And then health and safety coordinator, and I assume that's yourself, is expected to perform 12 safety audits within a workplace and 12 safety audits at job sites. Is that what we do now? And I know that we've had some issues with compliance before, and is there compliance with those issues now, or that frequency?
I couldn't speak for the managers. For myself, I had been conducting safety audits over the last year. I did have set goals for the number of audits that I performed with contractors, workers, within the workplace, and at the job site as well.
I just wonder about the supervisors with 24 safety audits a month. Can you just give me an idea of what that would include without having to go through all the policies? Is that a walk around, or is that because as I understand, there was monthly reports by managers, I believe forwarded to Mr. Nesbitt, but your supervisor's doing 24 a year, is that?
That would be the goal. Of course, it's a brand new policy, and we want to make it something that's going to work. One, from a safety component, and two, for job the workload that our employees have. So yes, we might have to return to it and adjust this. The goal is there. I think maybe we did set the bar high. I don't think that's a bad thing to start off with. It could be as simple as an employee or a supervisor going up to an employee, just one employee, and quickly going through the sheet. Honestly, I think as long as everything is being done correctly and all the measures are in place, an audit won't take more than 15 minutes max. Does it need to be done 4 times a month? Again, we're going to figure that out. This is kind of our hypothesis, and now we have to test it out to see what really works. Maybe it is overkill, maybe it's not. But like I said, I'd rather start high and then we can start to dial back. The other thing we need to make sure is that supervisors and managers, in my role, we don't accidentally all go and audit the same person at the same time. We don't want employees to feel like we don't trust them. That's not what this is about. So I think it's going to take some coordinating between all parties. And one component I did miss out, we will be introducing in our Joint Health and Safety Committee as well. Probably won't be right away, but we want to get them engaged as well, just as an extra set of eyes within the workplace. One of my goals this year is to try to empower the Joint Health and Safety Committee a little more and get them more active in corrective actions and policies and other things like that.
Thank you very much. Safety is very important, and I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
No problem.
Right, no one else?
Your Worship, if I may, I might add to Ms. Godden's comments.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, just to answer Councillor McKinnon's question maybe a little more. Audits were happening, but this is really a way to, I think, formalize those audits and track those audits and ensure that they're happening at the minimum frequency, at least at the minimum frequency that we deem necessary. And if you think about the work, the diverse nature of the work that we do as a municipal organization, I'm sure you can appreciate that, one day we may have our winter operations out plowing snow, and that same day we could be at a construction site repairing a water main break. So those audits are extremely important, and to think about that frequency and to put that in perspective, it's extremely easy to have a formal audit being done on a weekly basis when you think about that diverse nature of the work that we do on a day-to-day basis, week to week. So I think the frequencies that we've stated as a minimum are extremely realistic, and I wouldn't be surprised to see us going above and beyond that as we roll this out and really get it ramped up.
Thank you. No one else? Allison?
So we're looking for somebody to move and second the motion to adopt the new policy. Councillor Martin McKinnon and Councillor Carlucci. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Martin McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Carlucci, that bylaw 2021-20, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3529-2007, a bylaw to adopt the City of Dryden Corporate Policy and Procedure Manual by adding the following under section Human Resources. HRHS 57 Safety Audit Policy be read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks for all your efforts, Liz. Much appreciated.
No problem. Thank you.
I'd like to call upon Mr. Peacock to present his report.
Thank you, Worship. This is just a continuation of my previous committee of the whole report, just reporting on Kenora District Services Board CIP application. There were some questions that were posed during the last meeting that I had an opportunity to provide a little more detail to all of council. And at this point in time, we're just looking for direction on the amount of support that council wishes to provide towards this CIP application.
All right, councillors. Comments, questions? Need to give them some direction. Councillor Shane McKinnon.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you once again, Mr. Peacock, for your report. I believe that this CIP application certainly speaks to something that's been a problem in our community for a long time, and that's affordable housing. The whole concept of the Kenora District Services Board build is somewhat of a relief to affordable housing, especially for seniors in the community. It fits in, I think, with our strategic plan, certainly in the area that we support implementation of community safety and well-being plans, including seniors and youth programs and services. So I believe it fits in with that particular strategic planning goal, and also with the CIP itself. And I'm looking to the goals under 4.2, specifically paragraph 4 that says encourage development that is beneficial to the community as a whole on municipally and private owned, vacant, and or underutilized land. So I think that this project speaks to both of those things. I think it's a worthwhile project, and certainly I would support assisting KDSB through our CIP program.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Marty McKinnon?
I agree with Councillor McKinnon's analogy of that, and I completely support this this request.
Councillor Price? You're muted.
Thank you. I also agree with both Councillor McKinnon's that this is a why these applications are put out there, and it was a well done application. I think they followed through on everything, and this is something that we do need for our community. It's one of the top things that we need for our community, and I support it 100%.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Bush.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, I also support this application. We've got a changing demographic in our community with an aging population, and certainly not everybody's able to stay in their homes going forward. And I think this fits the changing demographic, and I completely support this application as well.
All right, thank you, Councillor Carlucci.
Yeah, I agree with all my peers there. The same idea, I do support the application 100%. I like the idea of this complex having the variety of the income levels or the rental income levels. I think that's something that's a huge plus. I hope that it works out for them. So I do support this project 100%.
All right, thank you. Someone to move in second, Allison? Oh, just direction. Oh, looking for direction. So we're going for it. All right, thanks, Tyler. We have no notices of motion this evening. We have no motions. And we're off to reports of municipal officers. CAO, Roger.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of comments from myself tonight. As most of council probably knows, or hopefully all of council knows, we've reopened our municipal services that were impacted by the provincial stay-at-home order. So those reopenings have occurred, and I really want to thank all of our staff that were impacted by the latest stay-at-home order and the shutdowns that occurred because of that. We had multiple staff members on temporary layoffs, and we were able to do that recall, and staff came back and are conducting the reopenings very successfully. So I just want to say how much I appreciate that, and what a great job that they do for us. I'd also like to mention the fact that I've actually attended one virtual conference, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, back in January. I don't think I've had any comments at council since I attended that virtual conference. And then this week I'm in the process of attending another virtual conference, the Ontario Good Roads Association conference. So lots of conference activity through January and February. And the good news is that these virtual conferences are very cost effective for the municipality. No travel involved, and you can actually listen in to all the sessions and get some work done at your desk at the same time. So I don't know about others, but I actually like these virtual conferences. We managed to secure some delegation meetings with some of the ministers and ministries, both through the Roma conference as well as the Ontario Good Roads Association conference this week. So all in all, I think a very effective way to do these conferences. But we'll see whether or not they last on the other side of our COVID situation. I think we'll probably be going back to face-to-face conferences at some point. But anyhow. And just the last comment I had, just a bit of a shout out to our Public Works winter operations crew. We're in the middle of a somewhat challenging winter. We go from mild temperatures to the deep freeze, and now back to above zero temperatures like we saw today. So it does pose a bit of a challenge for our winter operations crews, and and they've done a really good job this winter of dealing with that. So just a shout out and a thank you to them as well. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Roger. Treasurer Stephen.
Nothing from me this evening. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk.
Okay, just a little bit of an update. The administration department last month has been busy attending a variety of meetings. Some of those have been on the new council meeting management system, the master plan steering committee, policy and bylaw review committee, and land sale and development committee. We've also facilitated several tender and RFP openings and participated in RFP review meetings. As a note, the aim is to be using the new council meeting management system for the March 22nd council meeting, and members of council will begin training on the new system next week, so that's something for them to be looking forward to. As well, tonight we've implemented some new technology which allows those watching on the YouTube channel to see all members of council, whether they're in the council chambers or attending remotely.
Thank you. Blake, Public Works.
As Roger was saying, we've had the variations of weather and temperatures here over the last few weeks. Actually, the cold weather there, the previous weeks, we had a few water main breaks and frozen water lines to deal with. We actually just fixed one of the water main breaks today. Last week, crews picked up the snow downtown, but today they were dealing with drainage problems and potholes and everything else today here. So we'll see how long this warm temperature lasts. Just want to congratulate Dan Hutchison. He has been announced as our operations lead hand. As of today, he'll be taking Daryl Pollard's old spot, who's now the manager. We've also been busy tendering and ordering any vehicles from the 2021 budget for Public Works fleet vehicles. We have got those completed and on order already. We also have ordered the tendered and have ordered the new dock for Skeens Landing as well, and hopefully that arrives shortly. And as you probably know, I now have the facilities slash asset manager answering to myself and working out of Public Works division. Colin Hawkins is working hard on getting us on track for the current deadline of July 1st, 2021 for the enhancement of the asset management plan, which includes the core assets, current levels of service, and cost of maintaining those levels of service. So he's busy working on that. He's also working on the RFP for with the consultants for the renovations of City Hall. And he's also trying to work on creating a safer environment for employees and residents using the pedestrian skywalk. And myself and Colin are also attending the OGRA conference this week as well. That's all I have to report.
Great, thank you, Blake. Steve, community services.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, as Roger mentioned, we're open again, which is fantastic as of last week, and as of actually this morning, each and every one of our users groups had that opportunity to get back onto the ice. Seniors curling started today. Men's or mixed curling started yesterday. All of our user groups are back, well, with the exception of the ice dogs. It's been great to hear the positive comments of everyone who's missed us over the past 5 or 6 weeks and just how excited everyone is to get back into the building. All the work that we attempted to accomplish during this unplanned shutdown was complete, or I'm pleased to report was completed, so that's fantastic. Last week we finished off a funding application for the development of an accessible change room. That fund went into Hydro One Safe Communities or Community Enhancement Fund. So hoping for some good news there, and we should find out by the end of March on that one. And finally, just was one more that I had here. Oh, yeah, with we've taken out Ice 2, we had an available space, and I'm pleased to report that I think we've found an opportunity to get more people into the building, and we've painted some pickleball lines in Rink 2 So starting in next week and in the coming weeks, we'll be getting a little bit of a head start on the pickleball season for our community, and hopefully that helps attract some new members for that group and helps take that sport to another level. It's one of Canada's fastest growing sports, and now we'll be able to take part in doing so. Yeah, basically 3 or 4 days a week inside rink 2 in a controlled environment. That's all I have.
That's great. Thanks, Steve. And our fire chief, Kent.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, we've had a busy couple of weeks. We've had a few larger events over the past couple of weeks during the fairly cold snap. So we've been dealing with some pretty frigid temperatures and some pretty large scale events. So I'd just like to acknowledge all the work that our volunteer firefighters have done the last couple of weekends in those very challenging temperatures, and some really positive outcomes and then really great work by them. Also the Public Works, the Water Department, Dryden Police Service, Northwest EMS, and some community members for, even just bringing us coffee and hot chocolate to the scenes. It wasn't anything anyone had to do, but it was just seeing that community support coming out in some of these bigger events was pretty nice to see. And I know our firefighters definitely appreciate the little warm up. So big shout out to everyone involved with those events, and just thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. And Mayor's remarks, just following up on our CIO's comments. Every year the Kenora District Municipal Association, of which Dryden's a member, of course, decides which important provincial and municipal matters affecting our region should be submitted to the province, and 3 of 4 resolution requests were made by the city to the KDMA last week at the annual meeting that were accepted, and they were, one was the request for the Attorney General to reform municipal insurance so that payouts are limited to each party's responsibility for a claim. Request for the Minister of Finance to work with MPAC to introduce reform to multi-residential assessments to ensure all other property classes in town don't pay more property tax to make up for the loss of multi-residential revenue loss. And we're really just asking for what is fair, reasonable, and transparent in terms of a policy, a tax policy from MPAC that we can all support. And the third was a request for the province to identify a clear approach for municipalities to inquire about undeveloped, underdeveloped, and unused provincially owned properties within municipal boundaries. So Dryden, for example, is interested in developing the old MNR water-based property by the government dock at the end of Van Horn. And we've been trying to do that for about 5 years, basically to get title to the land. And other municipalities are making similar efforts for various land parcels in their towns. And this week, as Roger was saying, also at the OGRA Digital Conference, we've been and will be talking directly with various provincial ministers and ministries about these aforementioned and other topics. And also want to just extend sympathies to Dan Maltese and the loss of their house on the fire. Just knowing Dan and just feel for him and the family. And just a reminder for everybody to be careful out there with all that ice that you'll be facing on your stair steps and sidewalks tomorrow morning as you greet the day. Michelle Price, Councillor Price.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. Just a follow-up. We've now hired a chamber manager. Her name is Natalie Marcinkowski, young lady from Southern Ontario, comes with a lot of experience. I've been spending a couple of weeks with her now, just going over the ropes and getting her up to date on our chamber. We'll soon be moving ahead with the portion of MAT tax and setting up a committee. There should be a ad going out to, I believe, the radio stations is how we're going to be doing it for those who are interested to be part of that committee. Other than that, attended PACE board meetings, and we're still working towards delivering financial help to businesses and in need. More so for our tourist operations, obviously. Those are the hardest hit right now, so we're still working towards that. And yeah, that's it for me. Stay healthy and safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carlucci.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. Not much to report. Police board meeting tomorrow, but get out there and enjoy the warm weather while we can. And like you said, be safe out there. It's going to be a tad slippery, but enjoy it.
Thank you. Councillor Shane McKinnon.
Thank you, Your Worship. And as amongst the meetings I was at last week was the Kenora District Municipal Association meeting that was held virtually along with Mayor Wilson and Mr. Nesbitt. And it's certainly nice to know when you're speaking to some of the folks from the other municipalities that we're really not alone in some of the challenges that we have, and we're not alone in some of the hopes we have for the future. So it was a short meeting, but I think it was a good meeting, and some of the resolutions that are going forward really are reflective of where we're at as a community in the region. Beyond that, a reminder from the working circle that the deadline to put in a name to rename Colonization Avenue is approaching, 13th of March. So if you want to do that, and there's many names on there already, please click the link of dryden.ca. And lastly, I feel like I'm repeating myself at every council meeting, but now is certainly another critical time for our community, region, and beyond, with the threat of contracting or exposure to COVID-19. And we really have to remain vigilant, even though our region has moved to yellow. That's the protected zone. COVID fatigue and the prospect of vaccines in the near future, and not seeing huge infectious numbers in our particular health hub are no reason to become complacent. So please wear a mask, wash your hands frequently, and social distance, because we are all in this together. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Bush.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. As a pickleball player, I had the opportunity today to look at the new courts as they were being laid out in arena number 2. And I have to say, for the community, that's going to be a very big step up in terms of the facilities that people playing pickleball are going to enjoy. And I do agree with Steve Boulanger that that's certainly going to help increase the popularity of the sport, to have a good environment, a good, safe environment to play pickleball in. And with some of the other things that they've done with boards to basically separate the ice surfaces for hockey, those can be used as well to separate pickleball from the rest of the arena. So that should be really a first-class facility compared to what was going on before. And after looking at the pickleball area, I did have the pleasure of taking a tour of the arena area with Steve, and I have to say that I was very impressed and pleased with the progress that's been made in terms of housekeeping, painting, implementation of projects, and general upkeep of the whole facility over the past couple of years in particular. So clearly some major improvements have been made, and there's a much different look and feel to the complex than there was even 2 short years ago. So Dave, I want to thank you for your leadership in moving the complex forward, and recognize the efforts of the whole team that you have working down at the complex for all of the work that they've done as well in making all of that happen. So good job. And as I say, it's a much different place than it was a couple of years ago, and a pleasure to go in. So thank you for all of your efforts.
Thank you very
That's
much.
all I've got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And ditto to that for you, Steve. Thank you. Councillor Martin McKinnon.
Thank you, Mayor. KDSB met last week on Wednesday and Thursday, and their primary focus continues to be the COVID virus and homelessness, even to the extent where EMS workers were into some of the northern communities on the weekend to begin the shot giving process. So that's a major focus to the Kenora District Services Board. They continue to to roll out their plan for development and projects, and just locally that the work continues on the admin building that they're on the central corner. They're getting set to start the EMS base, and plans are rolling forward on the seniors complex on the Pinewood area. They're looking at that project pretty strongly to get a startup date. So those are all good things for our community. Shout out to all city staff and workers for the wonderful job you've done getting us through these winter months. Trying times. I mean, today I watched a couple of public works employees trying to fill holes in the middle of traffic downtown. Horrendous job to do right now, but they were doing it well. Kudos out to those folks. A reminder to all councilors and folks out in our community that the community well-being plan has a deadline date of July 1st. So all those pillars are firing up and out there doing their work to make that plan work. Our CAO is providing a really good resource to all those organizations in our community to help them make that deadline, and that deadline includes Nations and Ignace. They're part of that project too. So keep your eyes open for that, because I'm sure people are going to be coming at you with surveys and that type of stuff. So it's all good, but it's something we have to do. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor McKay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was happy to hear staff at Treasury Metals' presentation to us. It was quite encouraging this evening and very hopeful. And something might come of it in the next few years and bring a whole lot of jobs here. So that's pretty good news.
All right, thank you. We need someone to move and second confirmatory bylaw.
We do indeed. So I'll be looking for some hands, please. Oh, Councillor Shane and Councillor Price, thank you. Moved by Councillor Shane McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Price, that bylaw 2021-21 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council be read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And request for adjournment. Move and second.
For somebody to move and second the adjournment, Councillor Martin and Councillor Price. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Martin McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Price, that this meeting do hereby adjourn.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you.